Talk. Matter of fact, I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. We're going to talk about the annual Dirty Dozen scams that are out there. The IRS names them every year, and we're going to talk about them and bring them to your attention. So sit back, relax. We're going to go in. Back here for today's tax talk. As I mentioned, the IRS has this Dirty Dozen scam. Now, I got to tell you, every time I hear about the Dirty Dozen, right? What do you think about when you hear about the Dirty Dozen? Same reason why that they named it, right? Because you think about just what I think about, the Dirty Dozen, one of the best World War II movies ever made. So that Lee Marvin. Jim Brown was in that one. Telly Savalas was in that one. Chuck Norris. It was a great movie. One of my favorites. So I'm not going to tell you the story. I was watching it with someone that speaks German, and it was not in that scene. But anyway, let's talk about the IRS, because that's also not very pleasant. Talking about the IRS, but again, every year they come out with this. They come out with this list of things that they see, and many things are the same every year. Same kind of scams that are out there. But every year's kind of unique. This year is kind of unique in that they have some pandemic scams. They broke it down into 4 different areas. Well, let me show you that. We'll show you that 4 different areas that they broke it down to. Okay, so the first one is the pandemic-related scams. Of the 12, they broke them down into 4 different sections. So the top will be separated into 4 separate categories. You see today I'm on irs.gov. Lots of information on irs.gov if you're interested in anything IRS. Go to irs.gov. irs.gov/IRM has the manual for the IRS that details exactly the way the IRS is supposed to handle a case. And you could, there's lots of great information in there. I got to tell you that every time that we get involved with a case like this, with any case, we're talking to the IRS. We're going to the IRS manual and holding their feet to the fire to make sure that they're going to follow the rules as spelled out in the manual. So the second one is the personal information cons, ruses focusing on unsuspecting victims, and the fourth is schemes that persuade taxpayers into unscrupulous actions. I think this is really where I'm at. We could talk about each and every one of these fake charities. Actually, this year you got to be very careful because many people had never been on unemployment before. Now that they are collecting unemployment, or maybe they still aren't, and they're going to get a 1099-G, and this is from the government or from your state. This says that you received unemployment compensation. Remember, last year they didn't tax some of the unemployment. Now, whether they will next year or not is up in the air. But if you get a 1099-G and you didn't get unemployment, don't ignore it. Because if you ignore it, the IRS is going to come and audit you because they've gotten notice that you had it. So bring it to their attention and tell them it's false. Okay, because there's going to be a lot of these false reportings out there. And so you could, but don't just ignore it. Don't decide that this doesn't happen. I never got any money, so it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people do that whenever it comes to some tax information. Whenever they get something that's false or something they don't understand, they just kind of put it to the side and just kind of ignore it. And that's not really the way you want to handle something like that. You don't want to just ignore it. But the agency reminds seniors and immigrants to watch out for predators. That's always very good information. A lot of fake charities out there, immigrant senior fraud, seniors beware, obviously. This is one I want to talk about. The offer and compromise mills. We talk a lot about offers and compromise on this show. I always tell people, if I asked 500 of my clients who wants an offer and compromise, I get 500 hands in the air. I want one. Everybody wants an offer and compromise. They're not easy to get. And a matter of fact, I know that the new statistics came out, and I'll be going through those new statistics from the IRS. But the latest statistics were from 2018. And in 2018, the IRS solved 8.7 million. That's right, 8.7 million collection cases anytime you owe the IRS, and when they come up with some sort of remedy, whether it's payment or installment plan or an offer of compromise or currently not collectible status or whatever the remedy is, they solved they had 8.7. They solved 8.7 million of them. Of those 8.7 million, about 28,000 were offers in compromise. That's right. That's less than half of 1% of all IRS collection cases are settled with an offer in compromise. And then you might ask yourself, well, why are all these commercials trying to sell me this offer in compromise? And here's my answer to that. I get that question a lot. Here's my answer. Because it's an easy sell. As I just mentioned, if I asked 500 of my clients what did they want, everybody wants an offer in compromise. But everybody isn't going to get an offer in compromise. And there's a lot of bad things that can happen if you ask for an offer in compromise. First, the penalties and interest still keep accumulating, right? Even now, when you file an offer in compromise, the IRS is put on hold and they can't come after you. And so whenever the IRS can't come after you for a period of time, then this adds time to the statute of limitations, the CSED, what we call the CSED, which is the collection statute expiration date. Think of it as a statute of limitations, when the IRS can come after you. So if you file an offer in compromise, it adds time to the statute of limitations. And I've seen people very close to the statute when they won't have, where it's going to go away, and they file an offer, and all it does is give the IRS more time to come after them. So sometimes it's exactly the wrong thing you want to do, even though everybody tells you that this is what you have to do. Right. And again, this is what you see on TV. Many times what will happen is this is the scams that they're talking about, that they're trying to sell you this, telling you that this is the answer, when in fact it isn't the answer. Okay, so you got to be, generally if someone calls me and says, hey, Attorney Leahy, I want you to file an offer for me, I generally won't take those cases because they're going to be disappointed because they're not going to get an offer, usually. Now, again, sometimes people get offers, and we've gotten some great offers. I've got a plaques in my office here from a client that we got settled for $25, and they owed almost $60,000. So it does happen, but it really has to be the right situation, and everybody isn't in the right situation. As I mentioned, less than half of 1% of these offers are accepted. So be careful. Always be when that's the old saying. If it sounds too good to be true, it generally is. But not everybody, not all the time. People get them. Unscrupulous tax preparers. Now, this is another area I wanted to talk a little bit about today, because I see so many clients of mine to come in after they hire an unscrupulous tax preparer, and a lot of times they don't even know what's going on that makes them unscrupulous. Sometimes people do know, and they're kind of part of the scam, and they know that they're lying on their tax return. But many people aren't even aware that that's what's happening. And when your tax preparer, kind of invents a business for you and puts it on what they call Schedule C, which is a small business, and then they start giving you a lot of expenses. They deduct some of your home for your office. They say that you've done a lot of driving. They've done, and all these other expenses, and this is how they reduce your tax obligation. But it's false. And here's what you got to know: when you sign your tax return, now again, your tax preparer sends it to you, and you just look at it and say, "Oh, how much am I getting back? Wow!" Then again, if it's an unscrupulous tax preparer, that's more than I've ever gotten back before, and you sign it because you're trusting them, and you don't really look over it. You don't really understand. Even if you did, you might not even understand it, right? So you send it in, you sign it, you send it in, and then you have trouble with the IRS. What you don't realize maybe is that you sign tax returns under penalty of perjury, right? So this is a crime. If you've signed something that's false, it's a crime. There was just a tax preparer here in Chicago this happened in just last January, where there was a tax preparer that did this to a lot of people. And most, and they interviewed many of his clients. So what happens is when the IRS finds out, so let me kind of go backwards, because when you get that tax preparer and you get that huge refund, you want to tell all your friends, right? So you go back and say, hey, my friends and family, hey, this is the guy to use. He's going to get you a big tax refund. And so I've seen a whole group of people, family members, people who work together. Somebody that they work with will become a tax preparer and start doing everybody's tax returns. And everybody's so happy because they're getting such big refunds back, and they don't know why, but they just think this guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because they're getting more money than they ever did. And then when the IRS starts catching on, what the IRS does is they go through, because a tax preparer, and here's a kind of a red flag, if your tax preparer won't put their name on it, you got the wrong tax preparer, okay? Because they got to put their name on it. Now, a lot of them won't put their name on it because they know that they're lying, right? And they want you to sign it without them. So it's just sign here and say you did it by yourself. Well, don't lie on the tax return. That's, again, it's under penalty of perjury. But a lot of times people don't even know it's false. And what happens is the IRS starts going down and auditing everybody that he ever did a tax return for. And that's when your friends and family are going to come back to you and say, hey, man, what did you do to me here? You're killing me, man. And I sound like Joe Biden. But this is true. And that now your friends and family are going to be dragged in and be audited also. And they're going to have to give that money back. And it becomes very, and then penalties and all this other stuff that comes along with this. And so you have to be very careful when you're talking about tax preparers. And again, this person that did it here in Chicago, they interviewed many of his clients, and they said, did you own a business? Well, no, I didn't own a business. Well, it says here on your tax return that you did, and you took all these deductions. Is that true? No, I don't run my own business. I'm a W-2 employee. See, so the IRS gets them. Now, most people who are caught in this scam, they're not really going to go after you for criminal charges or anything like that. They could for perjury, but generally you're a victim of a scam. And but that doesn't mean you get to keep the money. And they're going to ask you to refund that money, and they're going to come after you. And it's never pleasant. So whenever you're getting audited by the IRS, and then that's where I get my many of my clients come to see me, because now they come to see me when the IRS starts coming after them, but then when they're trying to pay them back, now under what conditions, right? The IRS won all the money yesterday, and you need time to pay them, and that's what we help people do, get time to pay them. Unemployment insurance fraud, I already kind of talked about that, because if you're getting a 1099-G and you didn't get tax and you didn't get any unemployment, this is a problem. It might come from out of state, even, because a lot of people out of state are still going to use your Social Security number. I know in my office here, many of we got notice that some of my employees were on unemployment, but we knew that they weren't on unemployment. So we had to go about and try to fix that. Not an easy thing to fix. But again, you got to be vigilant, because you will be audited if you don't include it with an explanation. Again, you can include it with an explanation. Don't just ignore it, though. That any financial tax information, address it. Okay, identity-related fraud, employer-related collusion, misrepresentation of income fraud, fictitious employer-employee fraud, insider fraud. So these are the kind of things that are out there. They again, every year it's similar, but this year more. Because there's a lot more government money being doled out to people who just claim it, and the government wanted to get the money out to people, and by getting the money out to people, what happened was they overlooked some, they let some fraudulent stuff go by, and when they let the fraudulent things go by, innocent people are trapped. Because somebody's using your Social Security number. Somebody's saying that you're getting the money, and in fact, you're not getting the money. Same thing with stimulus money. Same thing with all of this government money that's going out there, out the door these days, right? People are claiming it. It's all fraud. It's not all fraud, but there's lots of fraud out there. And so you could become part of it by ignoring it. So don't ignore it. Always know that to be honest and forthright and address it. Don't put your head in the sand. And if you have questions, you can always call me and ask me at 312-664-6649. Remember now, if you're having tax problems, someone's coming after you, I have a book. It's called Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. That book is available. It's free. You see it on the screen there, freeirsbook.com. Go to freeirsbook.com, get a copy of my book, a free copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. We help people. We talked about fraudulent tax preparers. We help people with tax preparation. We're kind of unique in this area. We're not this, if you just got your tax returns done and somebody else did them for you, did they ask you questions about trying to save you money? Did they try to give you advice about how to structure your business in order to save money and taxes? Well, that's what we do, and that's what we're trying to help people do now. Go to freeirsbook.com, get a copy of my book, and then you'll get information about our new subscription service of IRS subscription service to help you with taxes and all legal matters when it comes to taxes and accounting matters. So who can you call for advice? You're paying every year to get your tax returns done. Your tax preparer does them and sends it back to you. You need advice on how to reduce your tax obligation, and there's ways to do it. We see the millionaires and billionaires, right? All of that came out, and they said that they were, they showed you how little taxes they paid. Now that was all legal, right? There's legal ways for you to lower your tax burden. I always say the people who pay the most in taxes in our country are the entrepreneurs, the small business people out there that are trying to make a living by themselves. These are the people who pay the most taxes. And you can reduce your tax burden if you take action. So take action, reduce your tax burden. We can help you do that. So I'm going to go back to my dirty dozen. Let me see about this. I'm going to go back to my dirty dozen because I like it. Okay, so this was a great movie, The Dirty Dozen. Tax scams. Remember, avoid them. Okay, so if you have questions, call me. Always happy to ask you. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, share. It helps us. It helps you. Helps your friends find us. So do that for us today, and join us again. Now tomorrow I do the show live. I do my radio show live. Go to Watch Talk Radio about 2:00. We'll be on there. I got a great guest tomorrow. Her name is Ray Kaplan, attorney Ray Kaplan. Student loans. You got a student loan? She's the one that you talk to. That's why I have her on the show. She's going to be live tomorrow, 2:00, watchtalkradio.com, and on Facebook. You'll learn a lot about student loans and other things. So join us tomorrow on that show. Again, today's Tax Talk will be back on Monday. So thanks so much for joining us here today, and we look forward to seeing you again.